It's been interesting through COVID to watch some of the trends in education this past year. And US college enrollment just dropped to its lowest level in almost 2 decades, as the pandemic has shut down schools and persuaded some students to actually skip a year instead of paying large sums of money to attend uh, what are basically online only experiences. So, to give you some stats, as of October, 62% of high school graduates in the class of 2020 were enrolled in colleges and universities. That is actually the smallest share since 2001, and that's down significantly from just 2 years ago when over 66 and a half students from that class were actually reported in school. So it's obviously been more than a year since schools have sent students home to obviously try to prevent the spread of COVID 19. Most colleges, of course, held some kind of virtual classes instead. And those that did have any in person instruction often imposed a very restrictive environment to keep people very safe. So the higher education industry has actually taken a huge hit. It's actually pretty interesting to go back and drill down on some of this data. So about 2 million of the 3.1 million high school grads of the class of 2020 signed up for college. Asian Americans have the highest enrollment rate, 83%, compared with whites at 63%, and a few percentage points lower for both Black and Hispanic students. The gender gap with that group of 2020 extended a really longer term trend. Among men, the enrollment rate is at the lowest level since 1993 at only 59%. And for women, it's at 66%, substantially higher, but still the lowest since 2006. And I think it's interesting to actually look at the age group just above that as well. This is a pretty interesting study by the US Census Bureau that found that the share of men that are aged 25 to 34 years old who are actually living in their parental home is over 20%, actually at 22%. And that's the most going back 60 years. For women, the figure is slightly lower, but it's still the highest percentage since 1960. So it is going to be very interesting, I think, as we look at all the side stories of things opening up in the United States and maybe look at it from the standpoint of education. Will enrollments turn back upward for college and higher education? Will the demand for non public school options, home based education, private and religious schools, will that continue to accelerate? And then, really, maybe the bigger question, what kind of brain drain are we looking at that just happened this past year as students had to learn from primarily a virtual environment? And how will we measure that moving forward? So stay tuned. Either way, a huge beneficiary of things opening up and going back live will be the student population. And I know we're all looking forward to that. I've got some more data on this if you need this. Contact me via email at ray.evans@pegasuskc.com. And if I can give you any more information, let me know. Thanks very much. Talk soon.